Hello and welcome back to Lombardi Sweep. With me, as always, is Luke Reimer and Trevor Land. And returning to the show after taking a long hiatus, demanding more money. We didn't know she would ever come back. She said she didn't want to be a part of the show. She said she was the Aaron Rodgers of Lombardi Sweep. But Janet is back. How are you doing?
What's up? I thought I was Danny DeVito of Flurry
A flurry
Sports.
sports, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Aaron Rodgers of Lombardi Sweep. There's a difference.
Nah,
Um,
just trying to get myself together. Trying to get my life together.
I think you speak for all of us.
I feel that.
It's yeah, right. It we had all off season of absolutely zero Packers news. Again, the only outside free agent signing they had was a long snapper who had been off of college football longer than he was in college. So, and then we get to this week, and it was Packers nonstop. It's still Packers nonstop, obviously by design a little bit. But it's been a crazy week in Packers Nation, and it would be stupid for us to talk about anything else but the Aaron Rodgers story, at least to start off. And then we'll get into our first round pick a little bit later. But we don't really need to introduce the topic of what's dominating headlines with Aaron Rodgers seemingly upset with Packers organization. I don't know, you guys. I want to know your initial thoughts about this, I guess. I don't know where a good place to start is. Obviously, for the people who listen to the Flurry Sports podcast on Monday, I did plenty of venting there as well. But I mean, Luke, you can start. Overall, there's a lot of things coming from a million different directions. 90% of it, at the very least, is not true. What's your thoughts going on with everything, I guess?
Yeah, just like you said, there's so many different things coming from so many different, areas. I feel like every time someone just says one thing, everyone just latches onto that for 3 hours, and someone says another thing,
Yeah.
and they go for another 3 hours. It's kind of like when you're playing beanbags, and everyone loses track of the score, and the first number that someone shouts out, everyone just agrees with. That's what this situation kind of reminds me of. But I've been saying since it came out, 6 hours before the draft. It seems a little fishy to come out then. So I'm under the impression that none of this means anything, and that Aaron Rodgers is just sitting back laughing in his basement drinking his scotch.
Yeah, what this has taught me, and this is going to get a lot of the fans off our stream, so I apologize getting the numbers down immediately. What this has taught me is just how stupid the majority of Packer fans and NFL fans are. It's true. I'm not going to mince words. Not only you're talking about the Aaron Rodgers saga, apparently 75% of Packers Twitter thinks our draft was successful when it was anything but. Um, People believing what the team's putting out there. We hear news, Zach, from your inside sources that have been bang on the whole time. Nobody cares about that. They're fine with the wool pulled in front of their eyes, even when none of this makes sense. And it shows why we have incompetence in the front office, because the people are too goddamn stupid to understand what's going on, and they're just fine with it. And they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the draft, how it works, the game. So, I look at the saga, and at first, hey, I was against Rodgers. I believe the reports, but I mean, come on, let's use some goddamn common sense. It's been how many days, right? It was last Thursday. Let's get our asses into gear. Okay, let's actually look at what's there, not just clicks. Okay, for the love of God, use your brain. I can't even begin to say how frustrating it is, because I saw articles about Rodgers getting booed at Timber Rattlers games. This dude has done nothing but put this whole goddamn team on his back for years with no defense. Mike McCarthy's bum ass as a coach, and now you're booing him because of fake reports. Please, it's absolutely ludicrous.
Janet, how would you follow that up?
Ooh, I like it, and I will have to agree. I think it's fake. I think it's fake. Just because we haven't heard anything from Aaron, and he doesn't like talking to the media whatsoever. He doesn't talk to anybody. So why all of a sudden he decided to sit everybody down in a room and be like, all right, here's the deal. Here's what's going on with me. And then also the responses from his teammates and the responses from Cobb. because I know for a fact that Cobb is his best friend, and I feel like I said it. I was like, his response says everything to me, because the first person, if ever I have any kind of thought in my head, the first person to hear it is my best friend. And so when I announce anything on social media, my best friend is not surprised. She probably heard it like 3 weeks ago. So for Cobb to respond, he responded with just gifs, but I mean, he was surprised at the news. So I think for him to be surprised, and then for all of them to be acting so nonchalant at the Kentucky Derby, I think it's fake. I think it's just for hype. I think it's just to get some sort of like response from the media. So I don't know. I want to hear it from him. I know that sounds crazy because he's not very much like, we barely found out that he was engaged to this person, and it was him. He's the one that let it out. Nobody, like the media, couldn't find out whether or not he was even dating. I saw maybe one article on that he was dating her, and it was in December of like last year. I don't remember, but it was an old article. So everybody was stunned when he was like, "Oh, my fiance." So now all of a sudden he sat down with the media and told them all of this. I doubt it. I don't know. And then Brett Favre decided to jump in, and I love him to death, but every time he speaks, it's just a little bit of my soul dies.
I love Brett Favre. People keep asking him about absolutely everything, and then he trends about it. He doesn't give two fucks.
No.
I guess I have a little bit of a different opinion of you guys, because, and I'll repeat a little bit from the Flurry Sports podcast Monday. Some of it's new stuff I'll say, but some of it's also the stuff I already reported. But it's, when there's smoke, there's fire. It's not like this is nothing. I don't think it's fake. But at the same time, the large narrative, especially getting fed to Packers fans and the moronic, energized Packer fans have, turned against Rodgers. Trevor, you talked about the ones booing. Everyone's saying, Rodgers has all this money. Rodgers doesn't get a say. Why would Rodgers leak this? He just wants attention, blah, 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 blah. It's very obvious that Rodgers didn't leak it. It's very obvious that his camp didn't leak it. If you even read Schefter's report, I think the very first line said per team and league sources, which means someone from the Packers organization leaked it, and then someone affiliated with the league or someone else around the league leaked it or gave him information. Bob Domofsky, if you want to quote me anymore, you might be listening. That's really cool. Suck my dick. Put that in your next article as well. He was one of the people who fed stuff to Schefter very clearly. That article is already pre-written before Schefter went on to ESPN to break the news. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But talking about who leaked the report, who started the report on draft day, it's between two people. It's the Packers organization, or it's an agent that doesn't like Rodgers. And which agent probably would that be? Could it possibly be Jordan Love's agent? Someone who wants Jordan Love to get into the spotlight, stuff like that. That's pretty obvious. I think it's the Packers front office. And then now the question is, why draft day? Why is this so important? Why would Aaron Rodgers leak this on draft day if he wants to get traded? He didn't. There's two big things now that the Packers front office, this regime, Gutekunst, has been criticized heavily for. First one was day one of the 2020 draft and the entire 2020 draft as a whole. I mean, they traded up for Jordan Love, bad pick, pissed off the franchise, pissed off the fans, and then they followed it up with day 2 and 3 of misses left and right. So they're getting criticized for that. So on the day of the draft, they leak this news. It kind of washes away some of the negativity from last year's draft. Aaron Rodgers is extremely unhappy. We're doing absolutely everything in our power to bring him back, and he still doesn't want to come back. Good thing we got Jordan Love. Good thing we used that pick last year. We do have the future. We have him all locked and loaded. Now, the second thing this regime's getting most criticized for, Packers haven't signed a single free agent this offseason. What came out today? Aaron Rodgers is telling free agents that he's leaving. So that's why no one wants to sign with the Packers, right? Or is it the Packers organization bringing that out now to cover their asses there? Because obviously Aaron Rodgers is such a bad guy, right? Like he's telling everyone, good thing he didn't tell Aaron Jones and David Bakhtiari and everybody else that re-signed, but he's telling all these outside free agents not to sign with the Packers because he's out of here. It's bullshit. Gutekunst, PR people at the organization, Murphy included, they're trying to cover their tracks. They're trying to cover their ass. They're trying to go into the next era without as much blood on their hands as possible. And this is the way they're doing it. From my point of view, from some of my sources, essentially. Bob, quote me. Do you guys have any... Does that make sense? Or are you on a different page as me?
The moment you laid it out, it made sense, right? I mean, the moment you see the first piece of the puzzle, it's easier to piece together than a Kevin Durant burner account. I mean, it's that simple. It falls into place. And like you said, just people eating it up. It just, and you know, all these people saying Rodgers isn't bigger than the franchise. Are you kidding me? The franchise is ran by Gutekunst. You bet your ass he is. It's ran by a madman or a moron, either or. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. But, you know, not hunting for facts, I guess, being too lazy to do your own stuff. This all comes from a culture of sports media that's too goddamn lazy to do a piece of research. So, you know, as sad as it is, not surprising in the least that it's being able to be spun this way.
So Zach, I'm not gonna lie. I've been reading a lot of conspiracies lately. Two that you laid out, you know, a couple that you laid out there, sounded conspiracy-ish to me. But those are like the most sure I've ever been on conspiracies in my life of what you just laid out. So I'll roll with the punches with you on that one. It definitely does sound correct. You know, it's Gutekunst is just the one. You know, there's no free agents coming. The draft's all fucked up all the time. I think it's Trevor. You kind of mentioned how it's just too lazy reporting. It seems like it's a lazy reporting that, you know, is trying to work against the Packers. When I don't know how the Packers are in, you know, United States or whatever. I feel like they're a pretty light team. So I'm not sure where that's coming from.
What you're not sure? I'm sorry, you're not sure what's coming from?
Where the media is coming from with all this backlash on the Packers.
Oh, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been criticized in the media left and right since he's come in, just because he's an unlikable douchebag, which is true. That's fine. He's an arrogant asshole. Take it or leave it. I like it. Some people will hate it. Totally fine. But especially, you know, sites like Pro Football Talk really leading the charge anytime. I mean, they're a Vikings led organization over there anyway, but they're looking for any opportunity to scrutinize Rodgers. Rodgers just can't had an MVP season with any action. There's an equal and opposite reaction. If he wins MVP, we need an MVP level news story to combat him, and I think this is it. It's certainly seeming like it. There's a lot of things to unpack here. We started already, but there's a few things to go through. So working backwards, we talked about the free agency report that came out today. There also was that report, Trevor, you talked about the fans at the Rattlers game or whatever booing Rodgers. I'd like to see a video because they're usually pretty specific with their words. Domofsky reported it, of course, because it was his initial leaked report. But he said fans booed. If it was a lie, they would have said crowd. So fans booed, probably 2-3 people, and then, hey, there's a report. Outside of that, there still is a pretty large, loud section of the Packers fan base, I think, very much against Rodgers. And I do want to know where you guys lie, like which side of the fence you lie on. And if it's in both, you know, if you have your hands in both sides, that's fine too. I think my side's pretty obvious. But Luke, you certainly are sort of back and forth. I feel like I want to know what your thoughts are. Are you siding with the organization more so, or with Rodgers more so?
I've always said it that I think it it's the players. They're the ones who are making your team. They're doing everything out on the field. You just want assembling the team. And the saying always goes, you can't fight your players. So I think the players have control. I think they know what's best. They're down in the game doing, playing the game, helping their coaches coach, whatever, just telling what's going on, the coaches and the players. But I think the players definitely should have more of a say. They're I think a bigger part of the team than the owners and GM front office.
I might lose half my followers this segment because I'm just going in on everybody. But Rodgers 100%. I mean, let's look at the biggest knocks on Rodgers over the years. Every single girlfriend. All right, that's one of them. Just we'll group them all into one. His family, that's two, and that's three. What do they all have in common? None of your goddamn business. That's what they have in common. People can't keep their nose to themselves. It makes no sense. And you look at him and you say, okay, him versus the organization. The organization has never given him anything. They keep their coaches that are completely incompetent around 5 years too long. They give him no help on the defensive side. They go behind his back and draft his replacement when the window is still open. They draft a goddamn tight end in the third round and a running back who is pretty much the same MO as Jones in the second. What are they doing? Like what are they actually doing? This man has covered so many flaws in the organization. He is Zach. I know you won't like this. He is the LeBron James of the Green Bay Packers. He just covers the minute, just the garbage. He just covers it all over. I mean, look at the Cavs outside of LeBron. Trash. That's what Rodgers does. And because people can't keep their nose to themselves and they need something to bitch about and complain about because they're too stupid to see what coaches are staying around too long, they're going to side with the organization. It's definitely the player. And especially a guy caliber Aaron Rodgers, you don't side with the player, you're either not paying attention or you don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. It's just how it is.
What's your thoughts,
Yeah.
Janet?
Oh, I was about to say we should have seen just how much he was covering, like when we did the transition from Mike McCarthy to Matt LaFleur. I think that should have been it right there. I side with Rodgers just because I do agree that the front office has disrespected him in several ways. I also feel like the fans have disrespected him in several ways. Like the fan base is very I don't know. My parents have been fans since I was born. My parents have been fans. Like my dad was like a hardcore Brett Favre fan, and like to this day, he will not buy a Rodgers jersey. Like he's like, no, I will never wear a Rodgers jersey, whatever. So I think there's a lot of like those kinds of fans that I've seen on Twitter. But I will side with Rodgers. But also, if he ends up leaving, I feel like I'll just kind of I'll still be a fan. I've been a fan forever, so I won't blame him for leaving. I don't think I will. I'll still be a fan of his, but he's definitely gonna leave behind a trash can set on fire. If and when he does leave, but yeah, no, and I don't see why they would choose the front office over Rodgers. I really don't. I don't think the front office has been doing anything good for us lately, but that's just me.
The issue, Packers more than ever, it's become very, very clear. Like the one thing the Packers need right now is an owner, someone who can really like pound the table and make a decision. And because there's, an executive committee, there's a board of members, then there's a president, and then there's a GM, and they all have a say and all have a little bit of everything. I mean, that's why decisions take forever to go through. That's why we spent too long with Mike McCarthy. That's why Aaron Rodgers didn't get traded on draft night. That's why Gutekunst is going to make it through this just fine. Like, they all help each other out. They're all where they are because of each other. And as you look at, I'm not going to get political. If you look at the government and it takes so long to pass a bill, pass a law, and all that because it has to go through each committee and each thing and yada yada. That's how the Packers are set up, whereas no other NFL franchise is, whereas almost no other sports franchise is. And that's why it's like, okay, yeah, we're owned by the fans, which isn't even true. And then we need something. We need a person to make a decision here. And honestly, any decision at this point is better than nothing. But then we talk about if Aaron Rodgers leaves, Janet, you said a trash can set on fire. That might not even be enough. Packers fans are spoiled from 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. That's just the reality, and it's a good problem to have. If Aaron Rodgers leaves, the Packers are absolutely fucked for many reasons. One, because we're going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, which is a massive downgrade. But if Aaron Rodgers leaves because of the Packers organization, they will never get a free agent to choose Green Bay for a long, long time. And for anyone saying, oh, they got free agents before, they actually didn't. Like, they got free agents because of Brett Favre. And then we're talking about like the early 90s and the 80s, which were a fucking disaster. The Packers don't get free agents. The only reason they do is because they want to win a ring and they have a Hall of Fame quarterback. Unless Jordan Love is an MVP, which he's not. He's not even a third-round talent. It's going to be a fucking disaster. It's going to be really bad.
So if we did have a clear owner, what do you think? What do you think their decision would be on all this mess?
They would meet with Rodgers, ask him what exactly he wants, and then they would fill it. Because they know Aaron Rodgers is the brand, he is the team, he is the only chance. And when that happens, that's what they do. That's the kind of stuff that happened with Russell Wilson when he was definitely getting traded. And then now that's fine. And by the way, Aaron Rodgers is definitely not getting traded. Like, that's something we can talk about too. There's a zero chance Aaron Rodgers gets traded. At this point, especially, there's a chance on a split impulse decision on draft night. And now it's like bad PR, and they have to eat $20 to $30 million if they trade him, which certainly isn't going to happen. So Aaron Rodgers is either going to sit out or he's going to play this year, and then next offseason they'll probably trade him. Unless Aaron Rodgers gets what he wants and he expedites the process with Jordan Love, they have to make a decision to extend Rodgers with safety, or they need to start Jordan Love. Like, that's what he's trying to force their hand. I guess, yeah, we can ask that question next. Like I just said, I don't think he's getting traded. Luke, what's the % chance that you think that he could get traded this season?
I think 0%. I think 0% he ends up on a different team by week 1 next year. I almost think there's 0% chance he ends up on a different team ever. I'm in this boat that Aaron Rodgers, he said in the past he wants to retire Packer. I very well think that that's the outcome that we're going to see.
0% too. And, even take out the salary cap hit. Look at the media spin. It has worked perfectly for this front office. They have spun it exactly to where they want to. So they don't need to trade him because he's already public enemy number 1. So, yeah, I mean, man, I don't see him getting traded at all. I just see this being more of a mess.
Yeah, I don't see it. But, I mean, the Bears are always looking for their star quarterback. No, I don't.
Hey, Rodgers for Mac, Fields, and 2 first-round picks. Who says no?
I would have accepted the 3 first-round picks. I mean, that's just me, though. The other question I have, which is a really dividing topic, and it's the center of the story, even though it's not what it actually is. People, are arguing if the Packers have given Rodgers help, right? And the same thing everyone points to is he's got a top 10 running back. He's got a top 5 offensive line. He's got arguably the best wide receiver on the planet. What do you mean he doesn't have any help? And obviously, we know because we're educated, we're not fucking idiots, that this isn't why Rodgers is pissed off. This isn't why Rodgers may not want to play for the Packers. It's not because they're not giving him help, even though I think it's certainly at play a little bit, like personnel things, but it's not the reason for all of this. However, that's still a really dividing topic. So, Luke, do you think the Packers are giving Rodgers enough help, or do you think he is really doing this by himself?
Yeah, so I'll say this real quick. I think you just mentioned it, but you said a top 5. I've seen top 5 tight end used as a weapon.
Yeah.
Trevor and Zach, you both know this from our fantasy football shows. Top 5 tight end, I don't think is saying a lot right now.
That's true.
But as far as weapons go, I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers makes them weapons. No, but Robert Tonyan's not catching 10, double-digit touchdowns at another team. I think it'd be tough for Devontae Adams to catch double-digit touchdowns at another team as well. I mean, it's the reason I wanted to draft DK Metcalf, because he wasn't a perfect receiver, but Rodgers is good enough to make him a perfect receiver. And I think that's what Rodgers has done his whole career. I mean, sure, he's had a little help with a little speed with Jordy Nelson. I mean, Donald Driver's a stud, whatever, here and there. But he's made guys like James Jones of the league in receiving one year. Rodgers makes everyone around him better. And if they get him a suitable receiver that they passed on many times in these last couple of drafts, I think it'd just be game over for the NFL.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the other side. I'm going to look at the defensive side. The offensive side, all your points were made, were completely solid. It would be great if they did that. It would be great if they did anything with the defense. Problem is, they're not doing anything with either. Going into, I think, the 2019 playoffs, Rodgers and his 7 playoff losses, the defense averaged over 36 points per game allowed. That's pathetic, absolutely pathetic. And you look at, what do? Micah Hyde, he was kind of up and down with the Packers still. Let him walk. Casey Hayward, let him walk. Even right after the Super Bowl, big defensive tackle, I can't remember his name, big guy, let him walk. They just let these guys walk. They draft guys. They reach for guys. They develop them for 2 years, let them walk. They don't bring any free agents. So offensively, they're not getting them help. Defensively, they're keeping crap defensive coordinators or bringing in crap defense. Shout out Joe Barry. And they're not giving them any help on the defensive side either. So, people say, oh, they didn't give him a wide receiver. They also still have yet to get him any competent defense. And the one competent defense they had was this year. And they were, 5 points away or something? And they did that with Marquez Valdes-Scantling's bum ass as their number 2 receiver. Look what happens when you give him something. It's crazy.
I'm kind of stuck in between. I feel like they've given him a lot of weapons offensively, but defensively they failed him completely. But that's why that's the only reason I was kind of happy with the draft, the first pick, because it was on the defensive side. It wasn't the offense. I was like, man, if they pick somebody on the offense, I'm going to be pissed, because that's the whole – I feel like that's why we lost that championship game, because of the defense. So I feel like I'm kind of in between. They've given him help here and there, but like Luke said, he does turn all these players into, shining stars. And I feel like without Rodgers, Tonyan wouldn't be doing what he's doing, and neither would any of the other players.
Well, yeah, Robert Tonyan was standing doing jumping jacks 80 yards downfield, essentially. Like, it's not because he ran a crisp route. It's because he waddled down in the middle of the field and Rodgers threw it to him. Like,
he did parkour. He does parkour towards it.
Tonyan's fine. For anyone who thinks he's a top 5 tight end, he is on the Packers, but not in the NFC North. NFC North. Not in the NFC even. To your point, Luke, Rodgers makes the team. We've talked about a little bit of what he does just for the offensive line in terms of helping their pass protection, which is what they base a lot of the success for offensive line units on. He dances around. He has better pocket mobility and awareness than any player I've ever seen. Like he sets up linemen somehow. He moves in and out of it and sets up another pass protection for Bakhtiari. And Bakhtiari is amazing, but he's not the best offensive tackle in the league, like Pro Football Focus says, and everything like that. So he helps there. Rodgers can throw anywhere, can read any defense, can pick them apart. So defenses have to disguise stuff. They have to back up. They have to respect his arm. That helps out the running game. That helps out the run blocking because they're never locking against a loaded box. It's basically man on man. And if they can move their guy, Aaron Jones has open field that can make a play. So that helps the run blocking as well. So the offensive line unit directly impacted by Rodgers. Pass catchers directly impacted by Rodgers. Running back success directly impacted by Rodgers. So are they giving him help? I don't think so. He's certainly making all of those big, accolades that you give these players. And then on top of that, giving him help, I feel like is actively giving, right? They've drafted him some players that they've developed into good players. Devontae Adams wasn't supposed to be Devontae Adams. Jordy Nelson wasn't supposed to be Jordy Nelson. So on and so forth. Aaron Jones, no one thought he was going to be this. Giving him, the only weapon they've given him was Jimmy Graham.
Huh.
In terms of money. I know Luke
Mickey
loves
Mouse
it.
gloves.
That was $30 million that was thrown away. Like, they haven't given him a weapon.
Literally thrown away. Every single ball
That's
thrown to
not
him
true.
was thrown away.
We gave him Martellus Bennett for like 5 weeks.
It's true. That was
was
good.
fun.
That was a fun time.
He protected him once, and he was already, more productive than Jordan Love. But carry on.
On top
Yeah,
of what Zach was saying, though, Zach, think about it, though. Jordy Nelson wasn't even Jordy Nelson when he left, when he went to the Raiders. He wasn't Jordy Nelson anymore. Not the Jordy Nelson we knew.
Well, he didn't even leave. He got kicked to the curb, and that goes back
True.
to the whole respect thing with Rodgers. He wanted to stay. Packers said no. Jordy Nelson said, "I'll take veteran minimum." Packers said, "No, we don't have the space for you." And then they signed
True.
someone like Martellus Bennett. Like, it's so stupid. I think the Packers haven't given him sufficient help, but again, that's not the focus of this whole dilemma. And then the only other thing I really want to talk about this, unless you guys have something else, was the whole reports about the Jake Kummerow thing, just because I want to just spell out the whole stupidity. It is a little bit sad that media members specifically can't look beyond the headline and just the literal sense of the headline. Like, they think they're really mad about, he's really mad about not having Jake Kummerow as a target. It's like, no, let's have a little bit of critical thinking. Let's think past the one dimension. Like, it's all about respect. Aaron Rodgers talks him up. They got rid of him the next day. This is after they got rid of Randall Cobb when he wanted to keep him. After, like we just said, Jordy Nelson was taking a vet min to stay, and they got rid of him. They got rid of his quarterback coach that he really was super, super close to without consulting him. He's now the offensive coordinator for the Browns, and they're doing a pretty damn good job over there, which, by the way, Rodgers should go to the Browns if they have any chance. That's a Super Bowl team with him. And just they didn't consult him on the coaching hire. The report, again, the old story that keeps popping up this week now, how Mark Murphy called Rodgers to tell him that LaFleur was going to be hired, and then repeatedly telling Rodgers, "Don't be the problem here," which is bullshit. Like, there's so many things. There's just absolutely zero respect, and it's the front office trying to hold power over him, showing him, "Hey, we're in control, not you." That's the issue. Trust me, it's not Jake Kummerow. I can promise you.
I just pray Rodgers goes scorched earth. Like, seriously, like, this is such bullshit. And again, I will be the first to admit I didn't really get all the pieces just on this one thing. but you put it all together and you look at the whole history. And I think you've said this before, Zach. They have been one half a body out the door since he was drafted, since they gave him the reins, since the whole time. And he has been the villain because he hasn't said anything. Like, granted, he definitely has a personality of an arrogant, cocky person, which, newsflash, he's a fucking NFL quarterback, 3-time MVP, one of the most talented of all times. He should be. I just think he needs to go scorched earth, because I think there are a lot of people that need to be educated. And I think it would be really nice to see a lot of the idiots try to backpedal and or be embarrassed for all to see, and also to say, hey, look at us, we're the only.
So it's no disrespect to Jay Kumaro, but kind of going off of what you're saying, Zach, that it's not the Jay Kumaro thing. Aaron Rodgers, I never saw a ESPN banner on my phone when we didn't re-sign Jordy Nelson. You didn't re-sign Randall Cobb. So for to say Jay Kumaro is a little curious to me, a little funny to me. But that's no respect to Jay Kumaro. He's a Wisconsin guy. We like him on the show here.
And he has family in the mob, so
Right, and that
zero
too.
disrespect to Jake Kumaro. For the love of God. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have anything else to say about this Rodgers situation. I truly believe he did not want this to go public. I think he wanted to keep it all in house. Hence why this has been going on for multiple months without us knowing about it until the Packers organization leaked it. You know, I just, it's a little sad and annoying, I guess. But anything else before we talk about this amazing cornerback? No sarcasm. Okay. So Packers, they talked about wanting to trade a lot. They didn't make a trade. They sat at 29, let the draft come to them, and they drafted a position of need, which was sort of the theme for the entire draft class after backpedaling, trying to erase last season's failure. We made a lot of really safe picks, and it started with cornerback Eric Stokes out of Georgia. A lot of people, including myself, view him as the second best cornerback in the draft out of Georgia, not even the best from that school. Obviously, his teammate went a couple picks later. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a good player. But I don't know if that was the best available pick. I know it wasn't the best available pick. But Luke, you can start off. What's your overall thoughts on Stokes? And if you do have to grade the pick, and obviously grades are so pointless at this point, but overall, in terms of filling a need, the player who he is, what's your grade for Stokes?
So let me talk through it for a second, then I'll give you my grade. I like Stokes. You know, he's I think he's going to be an exciting player to watch. You know, he's fast. I'm a speed guy. I love speed. So that's going to be fun to watch. Going to be fun to root for. But Zach, you're totally right that you know, it was a position of need, but that wasn't the best player at a position of need that the Packers needed. We saw that go, I think, a couple picks later to the Bears with Tevin Jenkins. But I think Eric Stokes, he's got the possibility to be a game changer with this speed alone. I don't know how relatively possible it is, but you know, a returning role I immediately thought of. But if I had to grade it, I'll give it a B minus around there.
I'd give it a C plus. I tweeted out about the Packers draft, and all the Packer fans that don't know how supply and demand works came out of the woodwork. I have nothing against him as a player. I think, you know, you look at the physical attributes, he looks really good, but it's kind of the story of Gutekunst. I mean, they easily could have waited or traded down, and we had been talking about that. And when you have a guy like Tevin Jenkins on the board, and offensive line was a problem in the NFC Championship game, and it will be. So I look at Stokes, and I think he's good. He fills the need, but was he the best on the board? No. If you wanted him, could you have traded down and he still would have been there? Absolutely. So I take that all into account. I mean, because you got a need, you're not a complete failing grade, and you're not in the D range. But I had to grade the pick overall. I'd probably give it a C to a C plus, just because, again, I mean, with all that's on the board, with all you could have done, it seems more like a settle than anything else.
Okay. Sorry, I'm mute because of my dogs. I would say I'm gonna say a B also. Just because I'm glad they went defense again. I kind of feel like maybe this will be an eye opener for Kevin King. Maybe it was trying to say something towards him. I don't know. I like the speed. I just didn't really pay attention this past year with the NCAA just because of the whole pandemic. Games were on and off. It was kind of obnoxious. So I never really paid attention as far as whether or not he was what we were looking for. But yeah, I would just say B. B minus also.
I did a first round draft grade for everyone as soon as the first round was over. I gave the pick a B. If I can use the whole draft knowledge now, what the Packers did with the class, I'd probably give it that C plus B minus sort of ranking. Again, he's not a bad player. He's not a first round talent by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not a bad player. And I think he could be good. But the whole thought process around it really pisses me off because we looked at it and we're like, okay, so either they are conceding on Kevin King, admitting that was a mistake, or this is a mistake. And then we turned out, no, it's actually an even bigger mistake. We're trying to move Jair Alexander inside to the star position, which is fucking mind-blowing. Like, could he be good in there? Sure. But that means we limited shutting down one half the field to a third of the field at best, and we bring another guy who's about 150 pounds wet into the box so we can run against him. It makes no sense. It's a really, really, really dumb way to think. And that's so stupid. But on Stokes specifically, again, his teammates much, much better than he is. But Stokes is extremely fast if he gets to run in a straight line. But he doesn't really have quickness. He's not shifty. He's not quick, which is why he didn't run the cone drill. He didn't do any of the shuttle stuff at his pro day because he would have sucked. He would have been really bad. The dude is Forrest Gump. You tell him to run in a straight line and he's going to kill you. But if you tell him to, slalom a little bit, he's going to fall on his face. What we saw in college. Yeah,
all those times are unofficial, right?
Technically, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
I mean, okay, yeah. We're taking their word for it. No matter what, he's fast. He's fast as fuck. But he has no agility. And why we drafted him was most likely we looked at his press numbers. In press, he allowed the second lowest completion percentage. But then you look at who he pressed, and we're talking about he jammed Devontae Smith, who everyone's talking about doesn't have any weight. Okay. So now we have a little bit of a reference for that stat. And if you watch his highlights, he tries to press, he gets burnt, and then he's so fast he catches up to him. And then he makes a good play on the ball. He has great ball skills. That's what separates him and Kevin King, honestly. But aside from that, he's going to get pressed and blown off the line harder in the NFL. Guys are faster in the NFL. Guys are bigger, stronger, can read the ball better in the NFL. It's not going to work. If he has no upper body strength, he's not going to be able to jam Justin Jefferson. He's not going to be able to jam Allen Robinson, who, by the way, is who he's going to have to guard because Jair Alexander's standing in the box now. Or we're going to have Kevin King, and then it doesn't really matter. It's a house call for the other team anyway. It just doesn't make sense. And if you look at the way the rest of the draft fell, if we wanted someone for that star role, we could have gone Tevin Jenkins first round, drafted Owusu Koramoah, to play that nickel linebacker cornerback hybrid in the second round. Or we could have drafted Asante Samuel in the first round, and that would have been fine. Or we could have drafted a lot of other people. I don't know. It was a very, very safe pick with very little upside, in my opinion. That's where I'm at. I'm pissed about the Jair Alexander thing. I think it's really dumb. Really, really dumb.
So how is that a B then?
I said that's what way I graded it first. Now I'm like C plus, B minus.
Okay. I was just gonna say, if you're still at B, I don't hear any upside, and you're like, yeah,
I'm
B.
an easy grader. What am I gonna say? But I don't know.
It's that history teacher, man. That history teacher background.
You would be a terrible teacher. I'd be giving my 5-year-old 60s. Get out of here with that. Look at all that scribble scrabble.
Pretty much. It was very much like, oh, Joe Barry wants corners who can press. This is the best press guy in the draft. That's the only stat we need to look at. Draft him. And then they watch some film later and it's like, oh, he can't jam. The stats lie. What? I thought numbers never lie. That's basically what we're doing now. I don't know. If only Aaron Rodgers didn't tell Patrick Peterson that he was leaving or something. We could have had him. That would have been nice. We'll talk about day 2 and 3 of the draft next week. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the draft, with Stokes specifically? Other Packer stuff you want to get off your chest and vent?
I just said, go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, no, you go, Luke. I was just trying to think of which one to go in on.
Okay, maybe this will give you some time to think, but right now, I see a lot of sites have Packers win-loss at 10 or wins at 10.5 over/under. I want all three of you the wins if they have Aaron Rodgers, or if you're taking the over or under if they have Rodgers or without Rodgers.
Over with, under without. We got to remember there's a 17th game as well, so that's an easy over in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm a second with. Okay, same.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you guys.
Yeah, the one thing for me about the draft and Stokes, and again, I don't hate him. That's not why I gave the pick a C plus, which, granted, I will say I do have the luxury of doing it after the draft, unlike you, Zach. You had it at the time. You didn't think they'd be completely stupid the last 6 rounds. Crazy. For me, I just don't understand. Granted, I don't have a list of all the players in front of me, and it's obviously extremely subjective, but I feel like those players that have not really been performing really great in college, granted Stokes was good, but again, one-dimensional. I feel like those guys that do that and then show off at pro day and their draft just skyrockets, I feel like they don't usually turn out too good. Granted, there might be a couple of guys that I'm forgetting about, but I'm wondering why the narrative has not changed on that yet, because it seems like teams get burned more than they get one heck of a pick. It's a dangerous game to reach on those guys.
That's the biggest thing I have with Stokes, or the Stokes pick in general. It was such a reach. We know it was a reach. If you like him, trade down. He was going to be there. I'm sure no one was really offering much to trade down because everyone was trying to trade out at the end of the first round anyway, because there was nobody worth the pick. And the Packers decided to say, hey, not only is this guy not worth the pick, he's not worth an early second-round pick, but we're going to take him anyway. I don't know. I don't think Stokes is any better than the third-round cornerbacks that went off the board. That's what I'll say. Well, that's that. We'll talk about day 2 and 3 next week. As a little teaser, the Packers drafted 3 offensive linemen to play guard, and none of them played guard. That's really fun. And that's all I have. Later.
Shout out Bill Walton.